What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a few games you can still look forward to in the year of 2022. With the recent delays of both Starfield and Redfall, it's safe to say that the very light schedule for game releases in the back half of 2022 got that much lighter. So I decided to make this short video about 5 games that I'm personally still looking forward to. Now, ironically enough, 5 is the number that I usually go with for these list type videos anyway, but as it turns out, there's literally only 5 that I'm actually personally looking forward to left in the year. That said, outside of this stuff, there are tons of indie games, etc. releasing all the time, and combined with the wealth of video games out there, it shouldn't be too big of a deal until 2023 rolls around. That said, before we officially dive into this thing, I do think it's worth mentioning that I would say 4 out of the 5 games on this list are prone to also being delayed. The first one we're going to talk about, I would say, is the least likely to be delayed. And while it's certainly not impossible for that one either, I would be incredibly shocked. And last but not least, feel free to just listen along, as mostly what I'm going to have in video here is gameplay trailers, etc., because of course none of these games have released yet. So with that in mind, let's start with the one closest to us, and that is STEELRISIng, as it is set to launch right at the beginning of September. This game sees us take on the role of Aegis, a customizable robot, and we control Aegis in an alternative history set around the French Revolution in the 1700s. And in this alternative history, we see a world that is actually filled with all sorts of robot creatures of varying uses. However, things seem to have gone awry, and most of what is prowling the streets of Paris is in fact these mechanical monstrosities that we have to fight our way through. And of course, unravel the mystery of what is going on while we do so. Overall, pretty interesting title, but more than anything, it is from the same company that made Greedfall, known as Spiders. They're pretty much known for AA games, but I have enjoyed basically every game I've played from them. Then, moving on, we have FORSPOKEN, launching in October. My primary interest in FORSPOKEN is less the game and more about what it might be able to do technology-wise, because FORSPOKEN is one of the big next-gen titles, if you will. And while the story itself is apparently going to see a modern-day New Yorker transported to some fantastical world from which she has to escape, and as a story that's kind of whatever to me, so more than anything though, I'm curious about what FORSPOKEN could be as a new IP, again, supposed to be utilizing all of this new technology, etc. Now, I will say in this particular game's case, they're also trying to sell it for $70 on pre-order already, and there's certainly a case to be made for the fact that games have been the same price forever now, but more than anything, I guess we'll see if that game manages to live up to what it's trying to do. Then third on the list, the game everyone here definitely already knows about, and that is Hogwarts Legacy. I'd be lying if I'm saying that I'm interested in this for anything other than nostalgia. I read all of the Harry Potter books when I was preteen, actually, and I really enjoyed reading the books. Like a lot of people, I find the world and the setting of Harry Potter very interesting, and I'm curious if they can finally make an open world game for this particular franchise that lives up to the hype. But nonetheless, you better believe that I'm checking it out. Moving on from there, we have 2 games that I've talked about previously, the first one being Dark Envoy. This is a game that is a bit more up my alley in terms of genre, meaning that it's the type of game that I cover regularly for reviews, etc. And it aims to be a CRPG that mixes the world of technology and high fantasy, and it's from the developers of another popular title known as Tower of Time, which I will also be reviewing a bit later this year. That said, Dark Envoy has been delayed once already. It was originally slated for 2021, so we'll see if it makes its 2022 deadline. Because if it gets delayed again, that's definitely going to hint towards some real trouble for the title. And then last but not least, we have ALALOTH. Now, ALALOTH is kind of an interesting blend of genres that I enjoy, so I'm curious to see how it actually pans out, because this particular game is meant to be an action RPG that is inspired by the likes of Baldur's Gate and Pillars of Eternity, which, if you watch this channel at all, is hands down my cup of tea, frankly. So I'm very curious to see how this game winds up and if they manage to actually pull off the things that they're aspiring to. And while I personally tend to rein in my expectations for any and all games, frankly, ALALOTH, in my opinion, has a lot of promise, especially as somebody who plays these types of games. So there you go, guys. Some games you can still look forward to in the year of 2022, at least for the time being. In the coming months, if any of this gets delayed, I hold absolutely no responsibility for any of it. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Consider leaving a like, commenting, subscribing, all that YouTube jazz. But more than anything, again, thank you. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.